anyone can be a real estate agent. What separates you from the rest of them? And that essentially is what we call your brand.
You're listening to the Hersh Condos Digital Experience. And here's your host, Mitch Parker.
Welcome to episode 24 of the Hersh Condos Digital Experience. I'm your host, Mitch Parker, and I'm very excited today. Sitting next to me is my girlfriend, who also happens to be one of my real estate secret weapons. Amira, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, Amira, you are the owner and founder of Project 4 Public Relations, right?
Yes. So, Project 4 PR is essentially a entertainment and lifestyle PR firm, and we focus on doing publicity for actors, authors, singers, musicians, so anyone in the entertainment industry.
And when you say PR or public relations, like what does that mean?
So basically our main objective is to get our clients as much press as possible. So that's anywhere from getting them TV interviews to features in magazines, newspapers, online blogs, radio shows. And the purpose of that is to create their brand and get their name out there so that people are aware of who they are and what they do.
So if somebody's like watching breakfast television, for example, and they see a guest come on, that's probably like a publicist who got them on there?
Exactly. So basically a publicist is kind of like the middle person between the media and the client. So my job is really to book them on these media outlets so that they can talk about what they do and promote their projects.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If somebody's a real estate agent, let's say, or they own a small business or an entrepreneur. So being a real estate agent is not your brand.
Right.
Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, being a real estate agent is what you do. It's
Okay.
not essentially your identity. Anyone can be a real estate agent. What separates you from the rest of them? And that essentially is what we call your brand. You could be a real estate agent that focuses on selling to millennials. That's your brand. You could be a real estate agent that, specifically focuses on the downtown core and you're known as the downtown guy. So that's your brand. That's what defines that identity that you can sort of sell to people.
And so let's say somebody's watching this and they're maybe rethinking their branding or they've never done this before. Like, what's a good place to start?
Yeah, for me with my clients, I usually ask them, because for me, I represent a lot of actors, and again, they all do the same thing. Anyone can be an actor.
It's just like a real estate agent.
Exactly.
Like, you're a real estate agent, you're an actor, you're one of a million.
Exactly.
How do you separate yourself?
Yeah, so I always sit with them and I say, what are the 3 top things that come to your mind that you want people to sort of know you for and like identify you with, So it's like sitting down and figuring that out. As a real estate agent, like what are the 3 things that A, you're good at, and B, that you want to really focus on, and what you can offer to people. So again, back to, maybe you're a real estate agent who sells to millennials, focusing on the downtown core. Maybe it's a certain neighborhood in the downtown core. So like, let's say you pick West Queen West in Toronto. So you're like the guy for that. So that's where I would start. Just kind of figure out like, what am I good at? What are the things I need to focus on so that, I can really set myself apart from other real estate agents, and then go from there. Because from there, you're able to, come up with your creative marketing. You can come up with your social media posts around that.
When you're breaking down someone's brand and you're trying to figure it out, like it's obviously, it's their look and their interests and everything, but is it like the colors that they use? Is it their fonts? Is it the sound of a video?
Absolutely. I think everything ties back into your brand. So that's something that you need to keep in mind, even especially with social media, right? Like everyone is on social media. Which
we're going to get into.
Yes. But so like font, colors, all that stuff all ties in together with your identity. Because again, when you want people to look at your name or like see your name somewhere, you want them to associate that with you right away. So like, this is like a different example, but think of Coca-Cola. Like when you hear the word Coca-Cola, you think of the color red. You think of that like cursive font.
For sure. Polar bear.
Yeah, you think of the polar bear, right?
Yeah,
so like all these things are associated with like the Coke brand. So think of yourself as the Coke brand. Like what do you want people to like think about like if they think Mitch Parker, like what colors are they thinking? What font are they thinking? So,
Everything cool. They're literally thinking everything cool.
Okay. So like that's where you kind of have to look at it. It always has to tie back to you and your identity.
And the best way to get your brand out there, to jump into what we were talking
Yeah.
before, is social media.
Yes. Oh my God. 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't use social media right. I mean, you're probably a big advocate of this. Like,
Yeah.
people probably make a lot of mistakes with social media, right?
Yeah, and the great thing about social media is that even if you make mistakes, like you can always delete it. You can always take it down. And like it's a learning curve. Like even though Instagram and Facebook and all those places have been around for a while now, I mean, everyone is still kind of learning because it does change every single day. But the number one thing that you have to remember is, again, the consistency, right? Create a schedule and think about like, what am I putting out on social media this week? What projects do I have going on? Also, how does it, again, tie back to my brand? Will it be consistent? Will people like understand what I'm doing? So there's a lot of thoughts that go into it, and I think that's number one thing that people make a mistake with, is that they go on social media, they probably see someone that they like and they sort of copy them. But again, it has to like tie back to you and your identity. So like you're very unique. What you do is unique. So like, put that out there on social media.
Like your authentic self.
Yeah, your authentic self,
Yeah.
right? Like don't just post, like a unit that you're showing. Be creative with it, right? Like come up with different ways to make yourself stand out from other real estate agents. Maybe it's a video, maybe you like music and maybe you put it to a soundtrack that you like. I don't know, whatever that is. I think it's like coming up with creative ways to do it, but again, be consistent. So for me, I think the best way to do it is to sort of kind of sprinkle a little bit of that selling in your post. So perhaps it's like maybe you're talking about an amazing restaurant that's in the neighborhood and you're like, oh, this restaurant just opened and it happens to be right next to this building where my unit is selling. So, you can talk about it in that way where it's relatable to a lot more people and it's less like, buy my unit, it's for sale, like, you know what I mean?
And if you love food and you love eating,
totally,
that like becomes part of your brand.
Exactly.
So that it becomes like normal to
100%.
be seen at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And then you're like an expert in real estate. So like naturally you're going to talk about real estate when you're at the restaurant.
Exactly. And the thing is, if you like food, for example, you can use different hashtags.
Who doesn't love food?
I know, right? Who doesn't love food? But like you can use different hashtags too, and that can help with like gaining followers because you can hashtag like foodie. But then it ties back to your real estate because this restaurant happens to be like in a neighborhood that you're selling units at, right? So it really is about figuring out what is the most entertaining way to gauge your audience. Because I think like people see social media as this free platform that I'm just gonna put ads on. That's not what it's about. Social media is, the word social isn't social media. It's creating that conversation with your audience. It's gaining an audience that is able to connect with you on a deeper level than like selling.
And would you say, like, if you were in the real estate industry, is there one platform that you think is better than the others, or it totally depends on a number of factors?
Totally. I mean, I think it depends. I think it's what your preference is, number one, because I think if say you don't like Instagram, let's say you tried it and like it just doesn't work for you, like don't force yourself to be on Instagram if it's not going to work for you. Maybe LinkedIn is more your thing, right? So I don't think there's any one platform that works best. I personally like social media. I personally like Instagram because it's visual and I'm a visual person. I like seeing pretty pictures. I like interacting with people on there. But that might not be your thing. So I say pick one that you're most comfortable with because that's gonna translate when you post things, right? Another factor to think about is like, what audience are you trying to target? Are those audiences on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? And say maybe you don't like Instagram, but your audience that you're targeting is on Instagram. Hire someone to help you. Like there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like have someone help you, someone who understands Instagram, because over time you'll be able to figure out what works best for you. But the number one thing is just make sure you're on social media because it's a great platform to be on.
So real estate agents and a lot of entrepreneurs, I think they like to have a return on investment for everything they do, right? They want to be able to say like, I spent X dollars and I got X dollars in return. Does PR work like that? Can you do that?
I mean, no, that's the number one thing I tell all my clients from the beginning. I always tell them, PR is a strategy. It's not an overnight solution. just because you hire me doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're going to be on the cover of Oprah's magazine. It takes time.
Sorry to disappoint you.
So I think with PR, what people need to keep in mind is that's a strategy that happens long time. It's not an overnight thing, and like that's with anything in life.
Obviously, we're in a bit of a unique situation right
Yeah.
now, dealing with the pandemic. Has there been any, like, from PR standpoint, because you must watch like commercials and see things in magazines, like, does your PR brain ever like turn off, or you're always looking at branding and stuff?
I always say, like, I can't watch a commercial, I can't watch a movie, I can't watch a TV show or anything news related without like thinking, oh, how did they do that? Oh, that's brilliant.
So like, has there been an ad or something that's come out during this time that's really like stood out for you, where it's been like amazing?
Totally. I mean, I think a lot of brands are trying really hard to figure out how to like navigate through this pandemic, which I completely understand. But one that really stood out to me that was very like authentic. So Kraft peanut butter right now. I don't know if anyone's seen the commercial, but Kraft peanut.
I love peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
Side note.
But Kraft peanut butter just released this commercial, and it's basically, I forgot the name of the hashtag, but I think it's something like in it together. And instead of putting out an ad for Kraft peanut butter, they've used this platform to allow small businesses to advertise what they do. So they understand that small businesses are going through a rough time right now. So they've allowed them to, they basically paid for this ad for them to use so that they can promote their businesses.
And the Kraft logo and stuff is still on there.
It's still on there. Like you when you watch the commercial, you see like the Kraft logo, you see the green that you associate peanut butter with.
That's like a perfect example.
Exactly. And then you have the commercial of the small business, and then it ends with, we're still in this together, like, or we're all in this together.
That's cool.
And again, it's very authentic. It's not in your face. It's, you know, you understand what they're trying to relay in the commercial. So I think for me that stands out so much, and I think it's one of the best commercials I've seen happen during this pandemic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
So if somebody wanted to follow along your journey and learn a little bit more about what you do, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
I am like on Instagram all the time. He knows.
I can confirm that. She is.
But my Instagram handle is just Amira De Vera, so it's just my name. But if you want to follow Project 4 PR as well, we're on at Project 4, and the 4 is spelled out, FOUR PR. And you can go on project4pr.com.
Amazing. Amira, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to go have breakfast and some coffee now. Until next time, thank you. Have an amazing day. This has been episode 24 of the Hersh Condos Digital Experience. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Hersh Condos Digital Experience. Stay tuned for more exciting content, subscribe to our channel, and make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms.